Welcome to Lit Vibes Only, where we lit the shit out of books we love and hate. I'm Kelsey, the unhinged, diehard, romantic, and fantasy reader.
And I'm Amanda, the insightful thrill seeker and historical fiction nerd. Welcome,
Hey.
welcome. Hello, hello.
Why does it feel like it's been a long time since we recorded? Has it been?
It has been. I think it's been like a month because
Did we do early August?
Yeah, we did early August, and now we're doing later September. So our flow is a little off because I'm like, it's been a minute.
It has
been a minute since we've been in here recording.
Look at what I'm wearing, Amanda.
I know. I noticed that when you got up. So Kelsey and I got matching sweatshirts that says reading is our favorite sport. So we definitely need to take some pictures together and post them on our socials. It's cute. And it is slowly turning into sweatshirt weather, for better or for worse.
I'm actually very excited about it because honestly, it was a long ass summer.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely. And the reason why I know it was is because I was like ready for school to start.
Oh, that's different.
Like I felt like I was like, I did all the things I wanted to. I feel like pretty rest and recharged. I'm getting a little antsy actually. Like I need something to work on. So I was ready to come. I was past tense. I was ready to come back and now I'm like, I'm exhausted.
With work. Oh yeah.
Yes, with work.
I swear.
Yeah.
Ever since like mid-August to last week, I would be working in the evenings every day. Like it was just a constant.
Yeah.
And I need to take a step back. I need to be able to
get that work-life balance in there.
Breathe. Yeah. So I have folks in my life trying to help me with that. And like, what is priority now or tomorrow? And then what can be postponed for
pushed off.
a few days or a week or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because it's real.
The beginning of the school year, for those of you who are new to this podcast, we're both educators, and the beginning of the school year is just wild. There's a lot happening, a lot of events back to back, obviously a lot of new students and parents that are navigating the school that need assistance. It's a lot. But I also realized that we started chatting and I didn't actually share our socials. So let me interject quickly. We went off on our little ADHD like rabbit hole tangent. Socials. So we're on Instagram at litvibesonly_podcast. We also have a TikTok account and a YouTube account, both of which are Lit Vibes Only podcast. So especially if you're new, maybe just found us through our 1-year anniversary giveaway or any of that, please be sure to like, follow, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff.
All of the things.
We have a great time here on the podcast, but we also have a great time on our socials and have so much extra content. And that's where we get to talk to all of y'all and engage in really fun conversations. So if you're not doing that, take a moment and do that. And most importantly, as well, if you haven't yet rated and reviewed our podcast on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts, yes, go do it. We got a lot more comments and reviews and ratings from our giveaway last month. It went
so well. I was so happy with that. I mean, it wasn't like explosive, but it was like, we got a good chunk of folks. So that was really nice.
Absolutely. And Skylar Thompson was our winner and got 3 books from us. So congrats, Skylar, if you're listening. So keep an eye out because once we hit 2,000 on TikTok, we'll be doing another book giveaway. So if you missed out on this giveaway, there's more to come. So spread the word so we can hit that 2,000 follower mark and host another giveaway. But yeah, we're excited to be fully into our 2nd year. And just
gosh. It's been so fun and long.
And we learned so much.
Yes. And we're still learning.
We're still learning.
Still navigating.
We are.
It's constant. It's constant.
It has been a fun journey.
The thing that I'm really proud of though
go for it.
is that like I've cut it close on deadlines of when I've had to read a book. But I've never not been able to read a book before our podcast sessions.
True. Yeah. And even if you were like finishing it the night before, you still got it done.
I still get it.
Snaps for Kelsey.
Amanda tends to. Well, when did you finish this book? I actually don't know your cadence.
A couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I think maybe 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Which
you didn't say anything about
zero,
it. Sometimes
nothing, not
you
a
say
word, not a
something,
peep, not a
like,
text.
I know. I have no idea.
I said nothing. I mean, I did rate it on Goodreads, so you might have seen that, but I did
I
not
did
say.
not.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So Kelsey is fully in the dark on this one, which I like. I think it makes the episode so much better
Yeah,
when
it's
she
fun.
has no idea what I'm going to say. But before we get to the book, what are you currently reading these days, Kelsey?
Kind of a mixture of things. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'm reading an Ali Hazelwood book.
Okay.
Which I know you just love and adore.
I love her so much. So
which I do need to do a rating video. I think that's what I'm going to try to do this afternoon, because I have read a good chunk of her books at this point.
Yeah.
But currently reading, what is it called? Problematic Summer Romance, I think. It's slow going because recently, especially since like mid-August, I was saying it's hard to read physical books and sit down with them. So the only time that I'm doing it is like right before bed.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's slow going with that book, but it's interesting. And she's doing like this big age gap. And I'm like, not sure if I love that. We'll see.
Okay. How big of an age gap?
It's like at least 10 to 15 years.
Oh, okay. Yep,
yeah.
That's sizable. Okay.
She's like young too. I think like 23 or something. And he's like 30 something, you know? And so it's a big,
that's considerable.
Yes. I mean, it's not like 50s and 20s, but
I mean, it's not like Romanticy where he's like 1,000 years older than her. So, you know, there's that.
At that point, it like doesn't even exist, an age gap.
It does. It's so weird.
It's weird though, how your mind does that. Anywho, but I also just finished another TJ Klune book, and I so am in my TJ Klune era.
Yes, I love it.
How many of his books have you read?
I have only read 3, Under the Whispering Door, and then the 2, The House in the Cerulean Sea, or duology.
So I've read those as well. And then this next one is the other one I've read, which is In the Lives of Puppets.
Oh, interesting.
And it was so good. It was just like another TJ Klune just knocked out of the park.
Is it cutesy like the other ones, or is this one more like...
It is. It is. And at the same time, it is dealing with issues around humanity and what it means to be human. And humans created these robots, and the robots like took over. It's very much like what we think about for our future, and like many movies that we see. But yeah, it's a younger POV, but I think he's like teenager maybe.
Yeah, that track.
Yeah. And it's very cutesy, but also like meaningful, very meaningful. Yeah. So I enjoyed that one.
I feel like TJ Klune does an excellent job of balancing those things. Like his books are these kind of sweet, cute, cozy reads, but somehow TJ also manages to like work in some really heavy, important, significant themes and issues in a way that feels really balanced. And so sometimes you don't even realize like, oh, he's making this big commentary about X, Y, or Z.
It was like huge commentary too. Like in this one particularly, I was like, damn.
Yeah. I was like, if I ever had kids, I would want to read these books with them. You know, like I think it would be such, especially like the House in the Cerulean Sea duology, because it's teaching so many good lessons about kindness and tolerance and compassion, like all of these things.
And family.
And family and friendship. Acceptance. Yeah, I feel like tolerance is the wrong word. It's not tolerance. You're not tolerating someone. You're fully accepting them and letting them live into who they are and the fullness of who they are. And I'm like, yes, these are the things I would want to teach my kids. And it's presented in a way that's very accessible for younger audiences and adult audiences too. You know, like I think that's the thing. His books have universal appeal.
Anyway, that's great. What I just got into.
Okay.
How about you?
I'm still very much like living into, is that how you say that? Living in, I don't know, my audiobook era.
Ooh.
I just finished. And it's interesting. I feel like every time we do this, when we're like, what books are you reading? I've always just finished a book. And I think it's because Saturdays are often days when I'm finishing books that I started during the week. I think that must be it, because I finished 2 books yesterday, an audiobook and a physical book. But I finished The Devil in the White City by Eric Larson, which is a nonfiction historical book about the Chicago World's Fair of 1893. And it also, he tells parallel stories. So he's talking about the World's Fair, and he's also talking about H.H. Holmes, who is this really famous serial killer from the 1890s as well, who was like committing his crimes around the same time as the World's Fair in Chicago.
1890s?
Yeah. Yeah. Dang. So it's around the same time as Jack the Ripper, like all of that happening. So he does this often in his books where he'll take like two stories that were happening at the same time in history and like interweave them. And I love that. This is my third Erik Larson book. And I think he's probably my favorite historical nonfiction author, and that I have read multiple of his books. There's other historical nonfiction authors I've read, but only like a one-off, But yeah, he presents the information in a way that doesn't feel dense and dry and like a textbook. Like it's fast paced. It's intriguing. He balances the narrative while also giving you a lot of information and facts about what was happening at the time. So I just love his style. I really love his style. And this book was narrated by Tony Goldwyn, who I don't know if you've ever watched, Scandal? Like Olivia Pope, Kerry Washington.
I've seen a couple episodes. Okay. Yeah.
He's the president in that show. And he has an amazing voice.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So it was just like a delight to listen to. And then I also finished my third S.A. Cosby crime fiction novel, which was Razorblade Tears, which was just like his other ones, super gritty and brutal, but like also redemptive and about family and the lengths you're willing to go to learn about the ones you love. So I finished both of those.
Okay.
Yesterday. So
yay.
Yeah. They were both excellent. I think I gave them both 4 or 5 stars. So that's what I got into.
Yay. Very cool.
But yeah, so we have a fun book to get into today. Kelsey, do you want to tell folks why you had me read Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry?
I had been wanting to read Emily Henry for a while because, she's one of the like well-known romance writers and extremely popular. And so I read Funny Story and, what was the other one? Funny Story. Oh, and Book Lovers. I think, over the summer. And then I was like, I was having really conflicting feelings. So I was like, this seems like a pretty basic book. And I'm like, why do people love this? It reads more like a movie to me. And I don't necessarily like that in books. I don't want to automatically be able to see it as a movie. But yeah, it's just like really rom-com-y, movie-esque. And so then I got to Great Big Beautiful Life, and I felt like she diverged a little bit from her typical story. And while she still uses like some sort of literary element in all of her books, and that is very present in Great Big Beautiful Life, I felt like the historical aspect is something that you might, or like familial aspect would be something that you might enjoy, especially over the other ones. So that's why I wanted us this one, because I enjoyed it more than the others and thought it would be more up your alley than the others. So that's why.
Okay. All right. Do you ask me the question now or after the summary? I always forget.
Now.
Okay.
So Amanda,
I should know this. We've been doing this for a year and I'm still like, what is the order of this episode?
Oh yeah. It's just like, it's the tiny details. We do it once a month.
Exactly.
But, so tell us, Amanda, was this a lit it or quit it for you?
Yeah. So.
And I have no idea.
So short answer, this book was a soft lit it for me.
All right.
Yes.
I think I dance over here.
I think I even took myself by surprise a little bit with this book. So yeah, and we'll get into all of those reasons in a moment, but I'm going to dive into the summary. Okay. I decided as I was like prepping for this episode. So the unique thing about this book is that there's 2 storylines. There's like the present day storyline between the main female protagonist, Alice Scott, and the main male protagonist, Hayden Anderson. And then there's the historical storyline of the woman that they're interviewing. I am going to focus mainly on Alice and Hayden and not so much on Margaret. We can get into that in the discussion if we choose, but I think it'll just make it easier for folks to follow along who haven't read the book, and it will make the whole summary just a bit more cohesive. So
Okay.
Here we go. So Great Big Beautiful Life, it follows primarily the female protagonist, Alice Scott. She is a journalist from LA. She works for, I guess, a paper called The Scratch. And she mostly does articles that focus on, like, they're like human interest pieces, right? She's focusing on specific individuals, celebrities, et cetera, and telling their stories. The other writer in this story is Hayden Anderson. He also started off as a journalist, is now a Pulitzer Prize winning author because he wrote this beautiful biography of, I believe, a musician near the end of his life who was suffering from dementia and kind of wanted to have his story told. And so essentially what happens is both of these authors are brought to Little Crescent Island in Georgia to write a biography of this once famous heiress named Margaret Ives. She's been a recluse for many decades at this point, I think around 30 or so, and no one's ever had the opportunity to tell her story. So Alice, using her wits, has been able to track down Margaret Ives and has gotten essentially an opportunity to have like an initial interview with her to see if Margaret will allow her to write her biography. And she realizes once she gets down to Little Crescent that there, again, is another author who is also there who wants to write her biography, and that's Hayden. And so we instantly have this tension between the two main characters where they obviously both want to be chosen to write this book, to secure this book deal. And what Margaret decides to do is give them both a 1-month trial. So she's going to sit down with each of them, allow each of them to interview her, gather information. And then at the end of the month, they're going to submit what they've come up with so far. She can take a look at their writing samples and then decide who is best suited to tell her story, essentially. The additional piece to this is that they both have signed NDAs. So they cannot talk to each other about their interviews with Margaret. They can't share information. And it's a bit unusual, but of course they agree to it because they're both excited for this opportunity. So as the story progresses, unsurprisingly, Hayden and Alice begin to develop feelings for each other. Hayden at first is very standoffish and kind of gruff. Alice is like this chipper ray of sunshine. So we definitely have the grumpy sunshine dynamic happening, which we can talk about later. And essentially, they keep running into each other. They're in this like small, basically retirement town, right? Little Crescent is not very large. They keep bumping into each other. And so a friendship soon forms, which then leads to feelings being had. However, Hayden pumps the brakes on their growing feelings because he's afraid that, you know, once the decision is made about who's going to get this book deal, it's going to kind of wreck whatever relationship or growing feelings that they have. So he's like, let's put the kibosh on this. You seem great, but I don't want to risk it. One of the things to note about Alice is that her backstory, her father died a couple years ago. She has a rocky relationship with her mother. She feels very misunderstood by her mother. Her sister Audrey, growing up, had a lot of heart issues. She's currently fine and like in the Peace Corps overseas. But that's a little bit about Alice's backstory. And it does come up because she's from Georgia. And at one point during the book, she and Hayden decide to go visit her mother. And while they're at Alice's home, Hayden very clearly sees, like, has a front row seat to the tension between Alice and her mother, the misunderstanding between the two of them. And Alice basically feels that her mother doesn't respect her as a journalist because she writes kind of what she considers fluff pieces and isn't doing writing that is meaningful and making a difference. So Hayden calls Alice out for not being more direct with her mother and communicating how she feels. Alice gets really pissed off about that, and that leads to some tension between the two of them. A bit later on, there's a massive storm that strikes the island. And, you know, Alice and Hayden are kind of at a rocky bit in their relationship at that point. Alice's phone has died. He doesn't know if she's okay or not. So he basically risks his life, goes out in the middle of like this hurricane essentially to check on her at the cottage. And they have like this really sweet kind of romantic moment. And it's clear again, they have feelings for each other. I believe at that moment in the story, one of them, I think it might be Hayden, says that he loves her, but he doesn't want her to say it back until after everything's happened with this book deal because Yeah, he thinks it's going to wreck things. So one of the things that Hayden and Alice realize as they're working on this book is that things are not adding up. It feels like to both of them, Margaret is either lying or like omitting parts of her story. And even though they're trying to be really careful about not breaking the NDA, it's clear that something is amiss. Like something is off with the narrative that Margaret is spinning. So we ultimately find out that in fact Margaret has been less than truthful, and the reason for that is Margaret had a secret baby back in the day. She didn't tell anyone about this. The baby was given up for adoption, and that baby girl that she gave up is actually Hayden's mother. So Hayden is Margaret's grandson. And the reason why Hayden is there to begin with is because she asked Hayden to come and write this book because she wanted to use it as a way to get to know her grandson and get kind of a feel for like who he was, how his life has been, a little bit of information about her daughter, right? His mother. And that is really the only reason all of this is happening. She's actually not interested in writing a book. She really just created this whole charade to bring Hayden down to Georgia and get to know him. And so all of the timing was kind of coincidental because as she's asking Hayden to come down and do this fake book deal, Alice shows up, right? And wants a real book deal, right? She's an actual author who wants to write this book. And so essentially because of the NDA, Alice cannot tell Hayden what she's discovered, that Hayden is Margaret's grandson. And she feels really torn up about this. She's like, I can't be in a relationship with someone without telling them the truth. And I can't tell them the truth because of the NDA. And so she basically ends the relationship. She moves back in with her mom, at least temporarily. And they end up having like this beautiful moment of reconciliation and coming together and starting to build the relationship. And Hayden goes back to New York, which is where he is from. And neither of them, right, are writing this book. Alice writes a letter to Margaret and is basically like, I think Hayden deserves to know the truth. You should tell him, et cetera, et cetera. Unbeknownst to Alice, Margaret ends up I shouldn't say taking Alice up on her offer, but she ends up taking Alice's advice and decides to tell the full truth to Hayden. And several weeks later, I think maybe a month later, Hayden shows up on Alice's doorstep and he's like, hey, I know what you did. I know that you asked Margaret to tell me the truth, and she did. And basically, I love you and you're great and we should be together. And so they do end up, there's like a little epilogue. Like a couple of years later, they have written Margaret's biography. They've gotten married. They have a little daughter that's just been born. And Alice is currently working on a biography of her own parents and their love story, which is really sweet. And so it's kind of this, beautiful, like full circle moment that ends the book. So that's essentially it in a nutshell. Again, only focusing really on Alice and Hayden's story.
Yeah. Not
really diving into Margaret's story. I guess I would just tag on and say that Margaret essentially came from this incredibly wealthy family, lots of generational wealth. So they were in the newspaper industry, among other things. And so she was this newspaper heiress, essentially. And because of her wealth, she spent much of her life in the spotlight. And as with any wealthy family, there was a lot of scandals and, illicit affairs and all of this. She ended up marrying a really famous musician. And who she loved fully and desperately. And he died in a tragic car accident. So she's just had a really rough go of it. And her life has been kind of splayed over the pages of tabloids. And because of that, after everything that happened to her, she kind of went into hiding. And no one really knew what happened to Margaret Ives. And she's living under a fake name. Yeah. And it took a while for Alice to find her. So just want to tag on that as well.
Yes. And I think that's the important part to know about Margaret, not necessarily the twists and turns throughout, although I found that part of the story very interesting. Yeah, it's just good to know that, yes, her family was very well known and in the spotlight often. And so thank you, Amanda.
You're so welcome, Kelsey.
I could almost tell which parts you were annoyed about and which ones you enjoyed. So first, though, tell us explicitly, what parts of the book did you enjoy?
Yeah. So, obviously, I am a big fan of historical fiction. So I think I did appreciate the flashbacks, right, to Margaret's timeline, to different points in American history, because it's telling not just her story, but the story of her family going back a couple generations. So you do kind of see several different decades, several different eras of the United States as her story is being told, which I appreciated. This is a small thing, but I really loved the fact that she and I are both 5'9". I think especially,
oh my gosh,
I've mentioned this before, in a lot of romantasy novels, the girls are always like these teeny tiny, like pixie sticks, and just having a female protagonist in a romance novel. Yes. I was like, thank you. And, even her comments about, because I think, Hayden's like 6'3" or something. And, the struggle when they're like sitting at the table and their knees are always knocking into each other. I was like, that was just really relatable for me. I think I also really liked the mother-daughter dynamic in this story between Alice and her mother. As someone who also has a challenging relationship with my mom, I think I felt very seen in a lot of ways, in a lot of the moments that were unfolding between the two of them. So that really resonated a lot with me. And I think similar to the Abby Jimenez book that you had me read, Say You'll Remember Me, I felt like there was a good dose of quote unquote reality to this book. Like it wasn't just this like sugary sweet, fluffy romance where everything is fine and everyone is beautiful and nothing goes wrong and like real life doesn't settle in any way. Like you see them struggling, both Hayden and Alice, with a lot of gritty situations, especially in their personal lives and their family lives. So yes, Alice has issues with her mom, but Hayden also has a difficult relationship with his family. His father, I think, was like the mayor of the town he grew up in like Indiana. And so he's always kind of grown up in the spotlight and feels like he's been forced to be perfect and like there's no room for mistakes. And so he's really hard on himself. And they both take the time to unpack that in this story. And of course, Margaret's got all of her own like baggage trauma from her family. And I think the last thing that I liked is that, which goes back to me kind of identifying with Alice, is I think Alice is this very kind of happy, chipper, go lucky, perky person. But underneath all of that, there's a lot of tough emotions and feelings that she's repressing and not addressing. And that's very much me. And has been for a long time. And so I think that also was one of those like same moments. It was very much a mirror moment for me in reading this. And obviously when you feel connected to a character in the story, you're more likely to enjoy the story overall. So yeah, I think those would be the big things that I liked about this book.
Great. Yeah. I read this, what was it, in July, I think. And I forgot about that, the beginning where Alice was just like, da, 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 yay, I'm so happy. Like so nice to everybody. I forgot about that part of the story.
Yeah. I mean, the grumpy sunshine dynamic is like so obvious in this book.
Absolutely.
Like Emily Henry leans so heavily into that trope, which, I mean, it's definitely overdone. And I think if I didn't relate to Alice.
In general, you mean?
Yeah.
Or in this book?
No, I think in this, in general, but I also think she leans heavily into it in this book as well. But I think it didn't bother me as much because I did feel connected to Alice, and I was like, I don't know. So maybe I was a little bit biased and like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. But I do feel like I would like to read a book, and we've talked about this before, where it's the grumpy sunshine dynamic, but it's reversed. And like the female's grumpy. I guess you kind of see that in like Nesta's book in A Court of Silver Flames, where she's grumpy and Cassian's like more playful.
Oh, that's so true. But it's a different dynamic.
It's a different dynamic for sure, because Cassian's also kind of dark and brooding. So, but I would love to read like a romance novel that's the grumpy sunshine trope, but it's like Amanda? Gender swapped.
I will find us one.
Thank you. I would love to read that.
That's so funny to think about. But yeah, exactly. Or maybe a lesbian or gay relationship we could read about.
Yeah, exactly.
That way, because gender norms are not necessarily portrayed in those.
Yeah.
In the same way in those stories.
Exactly.
Yeah. So funny. I never thought about her height. Like it was
that makes sense.
This passing thing for me. Even when the character is really small, like it's just like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like necessarily something I stick to, like, or hold on to.
Yeah. But
that makes
think
sense.
she does. Alice brings it up so often in this book.
So
I think that's also why it stuck out, is like she, as the character, is constantly commenting on her height and on Hayden's height, especially when they're like together, and how they always have to like readjust themselves, you know, like when they're sitting, like it comes up continually. So it felt like Emily Henry, and I don't know how tall Emily Henry is, but it felt like Emily Henry was really beating this one over the head, which again, I didn't mind because I fully relate. But I guess also like in terms of the characters' appearances, the other thing that I guess I did like about the book is that Hayden isn't described as being traditionally handsome, right? He obviously has a nice body, but there's this quote from Alice, and I'm going to read it really quickly. And I was like, oh, this is kind of refreshing, because I think sometimes both in romance novels, especially in romantasy novels, like everyone just looks like a Greek god, you know? Yes. And I understand that as a romance and you want to be imagining like these perfect people, but I think there's also something really nice and relatable about reading love stories about people who at least seem somewhat like, that could be me, right? Human, or someone I know.
Yeah.
So this is the quote from Alice describing Hayden. Quote, "He's nowhere near symmetrical. His eyes are small and his mouth is wide and his nose looks like it's been broken at least once and not properly set," unquote. And I was like, oh, I love this. Like, he just sounds like a normal guy who she, of course, finds particularly attractive, but isn't necessarily this objectively like Hollywood A-list looking guy. And for me, that made the story better. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of people like, no, like I want my romance protagonist to be like these flawless individuals because I want to escape into this fantasy. But for me, I'm like, no, like, let's put some folks with flaws in these books. Come on now.
Yeah. And I think that romance versus romantasy has definitely like a more of an opportunity for that. And just thinking back to Abby Jimenez's book, like, yeah, they were good looking, but then there were aspects of them that were like, oh, he's really poor. And that's why this story is heavier or more realistic. Yeah. And so I appreciate those elements as well in romance, where it's just like, yeah, this is more realistic. It's not, people go through shit.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. It's not just a bunch of uber wealthy, good looking people like, you know, cavorting about on their yachts or whatever. You know, it's like, okay, like I could see myself in this story. Yeah. So I really liked that about the book. Like that helped. And I kind of have a question for you, because I'm curious what you thought. So obviously we've read a lot of books over the past year, and you know, we've also read books with, you know, characters who are like neurodiverse and, you know, who show up in the world in different ways. And again, maybe this is because I work in education. I work with a lot of kids who have learning differences. Some of my students, you know, are on the spectrum, et cetera. But Hayden, to me, often read as a character who might be someone who is on the spectrum, because he seemed to really struggle with social cues in this book. And I don't know how much of like the nitty gritty details you remember. I know it's been a couple months for you, but like some of the interactions he would have with Alice and the ways in which he would respond, I was often like, oh, I think you're not understanding what she's trying to communicate and the way she's trying to communicate and the body language she's using. Because the way that he would respond and be like, oh, that's not how I think someone who is neurotypical would respond. Again, I could be reading into it, but that definitely stuck out to me. And it stuck out to me enough that I like made a note about it when I was reading. But I don't know if you remember that or if that came up for you when you were reading.
I don't remember that. Okay. Do you have an example?
I think there were times like the things that he would say in response to something that Alice would say would just seem maybe a bit off, or she would say something and he would be confused, where it seemed like it would be crystal clear what she was asking for, what she was trying to say.
Yeah.
And Emily Henry would describe his facial expression like in response to something that Alice would say. And I'm like, that doesn't track. Like, why are you confused, or why are you surprised, or why are you upset, or whatever? Like it didn't align. And he also seemed to have, and this isn't necessarily like he's on the spectrum, but he also seemed to lack awareness of his social environment as well. He would be working on his laptop or something, and like Alice would come and stand next to him, and he would just be completely unaware of the fact that there was someone in his personal space trying to like get his attention. So just like little things. There was something else. he had a very stilted way of engaging. And again, that doesn't mean that he is neurodiverse, but he felt so awkward. Like he didn't know how to engage. And I don't know, that just kind of really left off the page at me. And I was like, oh, I wonder if that is a sign of that, or if he's just an awkward guy, and doesn't really know how to interact well with other people. Yeah. Or because Alice is so overbearing and chipper, it just really throws him off his game.
That could be too. Because you have to question, like, okay, he's this really popular, well-known journalist as well. And how does those qualities like lend itself to this job and for him to be so successful?
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
So yeah, we don't have to spend a lot of time on it. I was just curious. I was like, okay, interesting. And especially compared to other male protagonists I've read in romance books, he definitely seemed, just a little bit more awkward than some of the other ones. So yeah, that definitely stood out to me.
Well, what are some of the things that you didn't really like about the book?
So this actually came up quite a bit when I was collecting 1-star reviews, and I was like, yes, I fully agree. So as you all know, I'm a huge fan of Taylor Jenkins Reid. She's like one of my favorite authors. I've read most of her books. I have Malibu Rising I'm like waiting for it to come in at the library.
Is this the Atmosphere one?
Yeah, this is the Atmosphere author. Okay. And she wrote a book called The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And I do kind of feel like this book was kind of a ripoff of that, like a lesser version of Evelyn Hugo.
Oh.
And I'm not alone in thinking that, because it came up so many times in a lot of the 1- and 2-star reviews that I was going through. So I think, that would be something that I didn't enjoy about the book. So I'm like, if you're going to tell this story about, like this, I mean, in Evelyn Hugo, she's an actress, but there's still both these women in the spotlight, wealthy, kind of tabloid queens. And I just think that TJR handled that story better and told it better than this. So I think that's probably one of the things about it that I didn't like. I think the other thing is, and I've said this many times when it comes to romance novels, I think a lot of times for me, they struggle to have enough substance to keep me interested for 300 or 400 pages. Whereas a rom-com, which I do love rom-coms, it's like 90 minutes in and out, and I can handle that level of cheesiness, fluff, whatever, for that amount of time. When I have to spend, 3 or 4 hours reading a romance novel, it's just too much time. It's too much time for me to sit with a book that I feel like just doesn't have enough to keep me engaged. I think this book, compared to other romance novels, did offer a little bit more because of the additional storyline of Margaret. And if you had taken that out, this book really would have fallen flat. So I think that's another thing that I still struggle with romance books. And I think the last thing that drove me up the wall was the fact that they kept on having these run-ins with each other. Like literally every other chapter, she's like, I went to a cafe. Guess who was there? I went to a diner. Guess who was there? I was out for a walk. Guess who was there? And I'm like,
town,
oh, and Amanda. I understand it's a small, I get it. But like, it's not that small. And, taking that trope where you're like running into someone and beating it to death in this way, it got old. It got old really fast. And so, by the 3rd time, I was like, okay, great. Anytime she goes out for dinner or goes to grab a coffee or goes for a walk, she's going to run into Hayden. And so again, it just took away. Yeah, I just took away like interest for me because it was so obvious. I saw it coming a mile away.
Yeah.
There was no like, I don't know, like tension or suspense or anything. It's like, okay, every time someone walks out her door, Hayden's going to be there. So that was just a little bit too much for me.
Right. And that's something that romance kind of has to do, but perhaps they could be a bit more creative.
And again, like they don't have to do it depending on what the setup is. So like, in The Truth According to Ember, they work together, right? So like, okay, of course they're going to see each other in the office or, whatever it might be. But for this, I think she like just beat that little horse to death. And I couldn't handle it. But those were like the big things. Okay. Other than that, I didn't find a lot of faults with this book, and overall thought it was a pretty, enjoyable read.
Yeah. What I really liked about the book was that it wasn't just a one romance story. It was this story of love between family members and, you know, first loves, and there was more depth to it than what we normally see in a romance story. Because also I do want to mention Margaret's like past, because it was so interesting to me, and I loved getting glimpses of it through those conversations that she was having with Alice. And the fact that, you know, it was also about her love for her sister, right? And I enjoyed that aspect of it, and the fact that it was an insane plot line where her sister was like in this cult essentially with this man who was controlling her and didn't get out of that for many years. Like that was wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a wild ride.
Yeah. Margaret's plot line, a lot happened in there. And I definitely encourage folks, you know, if you're interested in this book, to check it out, because we haven't really gotten into it a lot in this episode. But I like what you said about seeing all of the different ways love can show up in someone's life, whether it's like love between siblings, love between like mother and daughter, like mother and son, love between friends. And even if you're just looking at the romantic love stories in this book, like obviously you have Alice and Hayden front and center, but you also have Margaret and her husband, whose name I'm blanking on. I don't know why.
I don't remember his name.
The musician. And then you also have like Alice's mother and her husband who has now died, and how she's navigating life as a widow and like what that means, you know, when the love of your life is taken from you and you still have many more years left to live. So I like that it was not just one love story. It was multiple. And seeing all of the different ways, you know, love can show up in someone's life and take shape.
And it felt realistic because those relationships were very complicated.
Yep.
Right. And thinking about even Margaret's relationship with her daughter, or non-existent relationship with her daughter, and she's attempting to create this bridge between her and her daughter and her family.
Yeah.
And then who was the person that was living with her? I can't remember how she was related again.
Yeah.
Was that her sister?
No, well, her sister. So yeah, to backtrack a little bit. So her sister back in the day was estranged from the family. Margaret's sister was estranged from the family for a while because, like Kelsey said, she was in a cult. And she then got out of the cult. She ended up moving to Europe. She ended up getting married over there. And the person that is living with Margaret is her sister's daughter.
Okay. That's right.
And so they're family, they're related, but they didn't get to know each other until later in life. So she finally found her sister. Well, I guess she didn't find her. She didn't want to talk to her sister anymore because of everything that went down. And because her sister wasn't there for her when Margaret was going through the loss of her husband, the loss of her daughter, giving her up for adoption. Yeah. And her sister refused to come back to the United States for her own peace of mind. So Margaret never forgave her for that. So they were estranged for many years. So yeah, that's that dynamic there.
Okay.
So
okay.
Yeah. That's her niece that's living with her.
And so that would be Hayden's cousin. It would be his cousin.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And then this other aspect of the story was that there's someone in the town that knows Margaret and knows all of this history. It was the doctor.
The doctor. So Alice befriends this sweet old man who runs the local bar and restaurant. And they hit it off, and they realize that Cecil, is Margaret's old doctor, who actually played a really pivotal role in delivering Margaret's daughter, Nicolette, and taking her off to get adopted. So he knows the true story. And it's no coincidence that both Margaret and Cecil have ended up living in Little Crescent together. And there's like this big aha moment because Hayden finds an old picture of Cecil when he was younger. And they realize that that man in the picture is the same person pictured in this photo of Margaret leaving her sister's trial many years ago. I'm like, oh, this guy, he's connected somehow. So it's like a whole, the book again, it's a little bit twisty because not only are there multiple storylines, but Margaret's storyline in and of itself is pretty twisty and complicated.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to keep track of, as you can probably tell from this episode.
Yeah, there is. I think that's it though.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing.
And that was the other aspect of the book that I really liked, was that there was this mystery woven into all of this. And so that was fun to me too.
Yeah. And some people said they did. I didn't see that twist coming. I mean, I did think that maybe Margaret had a baby at some point, but I wasn't sure. I was like, oh, maybe, especially when she said she was sick and had to go to the hospital. She's having stomach pains, but I didn't necessarily see that coming, or that Hayden was her grandson. So, you know me, obviously I love thrillers, so I'm always happy to have a little plot twist at the end. But I think one of the things whenever I'm reading a romance book, and I've done this, I think with every romance book you've had me read, almost everyone, is like, I'll find this quote or statement in the book that one of the characters makes about love. And I'm like, is that what I believe about love? Like, is that something that I believe about romantic love? So I have a quote here that I was curious to hear your thoughts on.
Okay, tell us.
So it's Margaret speaking to Alice about her parents and the reason why Margaret's parents didn't work out. So this is Margaret talking about that. So, quote, "For the one you love anything, you unmake the world and build a new one. You do anything to give them what they need," unquote. And I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I obviously agree that, you know, there's definitely an element of sacrifice and compromise when it comes to building a relationship with someone. But I think only to a certain extent. And this quote seems like you should basically, like, the fact that she said you unmake the world and build a new one, like you do anything to give them what they need. I'm like, do you though? Like, are you going to give up essential elements of yourself to like kind of fully sacrifice yourself on the altar of the other person? I don't think I agree with that. And I think that's actually kind of problematic thinking when it comes to romantic relationships. I don't know what you think.
No, I agree with that. And I'm just trying to think it through. Like, Margaret is reflecting and talking about her love for the man she married, right?
No, this is her talking about her own parents who had a really tumultuous, rocky relationship and ended up separating. And she's basically like, the reason why their relationship ended is because primarily her dad, right, I think wasn't willing to, you know, quote, unmake the world and build a new one, and like basically give everything up for his wife.
Yeah. I could see why Margaret's character would think that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because of the love that she had with the man she married. And I forget his name.
Yeah. Same.
But because she had that kind of relationship, right? It was like this messy, like, I fell really hard for him and this was my person, right? And she was young, I believe, too, right? When she fell in love with him. And I could see why someone who had that experience with someone, she's like, I gave up everything. She did, right? Like, she just started living his life, right? Because his life was like this roller coaster of a ride, right? Like, up and downs, dependent upon his shows and where his career was going, right? And so, not that I believe that that is how love should be, but I get why Margaret's character would say something like that. And I agree with you in that you can love somebody and still not be good for one another. And so, I stand on that. And if your health or your mental health, your physical health is in decline because of a relationship, I think you need to look at like, oh, why that's happening, not that you need to sacrifice more.
Right. It's like, reassess. I think I always, like, whenever I read romance books, and I always have this additional lens that I'm reading it through because, again, I think it's largely has to do with the fact that I work with adolescents who I know are reading romance books. I mean, not all of them, obviously, but like the ones who are. And I'm just like, if I'm at this point where I'm just starting to formulate my ideas about self and relationships and like all of that stuff, all of, you know, our little brains are so malleable, especially at that point. And it really does shape our outlook and our perspectives and our expectations when it comes to what a healthy relationship should look like. And so I'm like, yeah, as an adult, I can read this and be like, okay, like I can take what I need from this and leave the rest, whatever. Or I can understand, like you were saying, it makes sense for Margaret's character to think this based on her life experiences. But if you don't have that ability to kind of parse that out, I could see a younger person or a less self-aware person maybe thinking like, oh yeah, I should just completely, right, give up everything for the person that I love. And I don't think that's actually healthy or accurate. So I think those kind of grand romantic pronouncements that happen in books like this, they always give me pause and yeah, make me a little uncomfortable, I think. I mean, again, not for me personally, but just thinking like, yeah, who's consuming this book and what impact is it going to have? Because like words matter, you know?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I feel like I have a complicated relationship with that. I don't know. I also think it can be beneficial for folks to sort of see their own experiences in books as well. That can be really healing. And because I have had that experience before. Like I have given up everything in the name of like love, right? Or this relationship. And it was detrimental to me and those around me. And so I guess when I see something like that at this point in my life, right? Like I think it is important to also give voice to the experiences that people like really have.
Yeah.
But yes, again, there's this like other side of things where you don't want young people to be aspiring to these words, right? But I feel it is very much in the job of a parent to support a child through those things rather than the entertainment itself, if that makes sense. Like we're always going to have these rom-coms, we're always going to have these like movies and things and books that express these kind of sentiments. So we're always going to be exposed to that, right? And I think it's the job of a parent to be able to go through that with their child and have a relationship with them where they're able to talk about these things that they're consuming, whether it's books or games or movies and things. And so.
Yeah, I agree. And I think obviously in an ideal world that would be happening. Obviously it's not.
I mean, some places it is for sure. Like some families.
Some families.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's necessarily like a universal experience, especially because kids have access to so much more media than they used to. That is like, that even their parents are unaware of, right? But I think, in theory, that I completely agree. Like that is the parent's job to help kind of guide kids and young adults through, what they're learning and help them parse out like what to keep and what to let go. And I will say this on this same point that I did like about the book is that at the very end of the book, the relationship that you ultimately see is Alice and Hayden's, and it is a healthy relationship from what I can tell, right? Like they both have continued to pursue their careers in their interest. So like there is this balance of work and life and family. Neither person has been kind of subsumed into the other person, right? And it's like Hayden's career has taken dominance and now Alice has just kind of sacrificed everything to follow him around. If anything, Hayden is the one who leaves New York, right, and moves down south. And so if anything, it's the guy in this story that's making a sacrifice because he really cares about, well, his now wife, right, Alice, and the future that he wants to build together. So I do think that's, I want to point that out too. Like I think the story does end by showing the readers, perhaps a better quote unquote model of what a healthy relationship could look like. But yet it is important to see the variety of experiences that someone might have in a romantic relationship, both for the better and for the worse, for sure.
And thinking about Hayden and Alice's relationship, because throughout the book, it was kind of like, oh yeah, I'll just like give this up for you. Right. I'll move here or I'll move to LA or whatever. And there was this like process they went throughout the book to land where they did. And I think too, like thinking about love in general or the partner that you end up with, there are sacrifices or compromises that you make with your partner, and whether that's big or small, they're constant, right? You're not just always going to agree how you're going to live your life and like what you're adding to your life and what you're taking away. Like And so decisions that you make while together might lean towards one person's view or the other's in any given moment. And there's just a balance to be had in relationships, right? That is healthy for the couple themselves, not necessarily for onlookers. And that's,
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that you use the perfect word is balance. Like balance and communication are the two things that help couples navigate those things in a really great way. Yeah, and I think Hayden and Alice ultimately did that, which is like really great.
How sweet.
How sweet. So yeah, I think for me, those would probably be like the big things and themes and questions and ideas that came up as I was reading this book. But yeah, I think overall, I enjoyed it. Certainly more than I thought I would.
Did you go in thinking you weren't going to?
Well, I mean, it's a romance, right? And it's Emily Henry, so it's very much like these kind of big blockbuster commercial romance. I'm like, oh, this is just going to be like really, I don't know, shallow or superficial or like overdone or like super tropey. And you had already told me before about some of your concerns with Emily Henry. You know, like you were reading some of these books and you're like, I don't get it. Like,
I don't get
it. So that was also not bolstering my like confidence in
got it.
this book and enjoying it. So I think I was overall pleasantly surprised with my reading experience. Yeah.
This book is definitely very different than the other ones I've read of hers. And I still have some others like on my TBR and my Libby like coming soon. And I'm curious how I'm going to feel about those ones. Yeah. And if I, if the next one I don't like, I might stop reading Emily Henry.
That's fair.
Because I just,
it's just not for you. That's okay.
Yeah.
Everything doesn't have to be for you. And that's A-okay. Okay. Well, then I guess I would say for me, my final recommendation for this book would be, I think if you are a romance, lover, you're probably going to like it. I mean, it's hard for me to speak from that perspective because I'm not a romance lover. But or maybe you wouldn't like it because it's not as traditional of a romance, you know what I mean? And
that's hard to say.
I feel like maybe you wouldn't because you're like, oh, like there's this whole historical plot line and I'm not really into it and it's taking up so much of the story. I want to focus more on Alice and Hayden. Yeah. So maybe you wouldn't like this. I think maybe if you are someone who enjoys historical fiction and is trying to get into romance, maybe this is a good like entry way for you because it's a hybrid of those two genres. But I would say if you are somebody who's reading it for the Margaret storyline, forget this book. Go read The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and call it a day.
I should read that book because I have no idea what it's about. And
you should read it. I think you would like it actually. Check it out. Because there's a considerable amount of romance in it. And I think it takes Margaret's story or type of story and just does it much better.
Okay.
So if you enjoyed Margaret's storyline in this, which it sounds like you did, I think you actually would really like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
What's your final recommendation? I mean, I think I already know.
I definitely think, I mean, it's similar to you where like if you are struggling with the other Emily Henry reads because you feel like they are so basic, basic rom-com movies and books, like then I would say try this one before you give up on Emily Henry. I feel like this one has more complexities to it that I enjoy, and even a romance novel. So I would say go here if you're feeling like everything else is being basic right now. Okay. And you still want a romance.
Yeah. I feel like it's like we recommend it maybe, but with some caveats.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay. Well, it is that time for literally the best or literally the worst. So I'll be doing the 1-star, obviously.
So you start us out,
So I'm going to start. And again, for folks who might be new to this, these are all reviews taken from Goodreads. So I will start with my first 1-star review. I've got two longer ones, not really long, and then two short ones. So first longish one from Angela. Okay, so this isn't always the case, but I firmly stand by the belief that it's not about who does it first. It's about who does it best. And sorry, but Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo absolutely devoured, left no crumbs, and said, hold my martini. The comparisons between the two are 100% valid, and so is the collective frustration. Honestly, this book made me rethink People We Meet on Vacation. Maybe I judged it too harshly, or maybe it's still a hot mess. TBD. As for Great Big Beautiful Life, yikes. That was a slog. The characters, meh. The plot, boring. And the story within the story, it felt like reading someone's very long, very dry high school English assignment. Brutal. Oh, and oh, so predictable. At 20%, I updated my progress saying I had a prediction about this and was so spot on. Nail right on the head. But mark my words, when the movie adaptation drops, Tubi is going to snatch it up and people will act like it's the second coming of The Notebook. You heard it here first, people. LOL. 1 star, maybe sometimes a 1.5. This was hands down the worst Emily Henry I've read.
So interesting. Yeah. What did she say about people we meet on vacation? Like she loved it?
She said that this book made her rethink it. Like maybe she judged it too harshly, or maybe it really is like a hot mess.
Oh,
I don't know. I mean, I haven't read that one, so.
Yeah, this sounds like a person that really loves Emily Henry's like basic writing to me.
Yeah.
So
this was not their cup of tea.
Yes. And I can see that for folks. All right. First 5-star review from Jessica Joyce, also an author here on Goodreads.
Ooh, okay.
If anyone saw a girl crying in her car as she passed exit 428 on the 5 freeway today, that was me listening to Julia Whalen read the last sentence of this book. Thank God for Emily Henry's great big beautiful words. I will be back at some point to talk about the way Emily Henry absolutely bodied the craft of weaving together like 6 different character arcs into that spectacular conclusion. But for now, I'm going to lay on the floor and stare at the ceiling and think about my life. And yes, this is now my favorite Emily Henry book. Hayden and Alice, I love you so much.
Oh, I do love Julia Whalen. She's like, everyone, when I first started listening to audiobooks, everyone was like, listen to the ones that she narrates. And she's done like 700 or something. And her, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. She's like the queen of audiobook narration. It's crazy. What? Yeah. It's pretty wild.
That is wild. Dang. So did you listen to this one?
I did not listen to this one, but I've listened to multiple audiobooks already this year that she has narrated. I'm like, yeah, I can see why people like her. Yeah. Okay. Next 1-star review from Angela Bilby. Okay. I say this with all the love in the world, but Miss Emily, what happened here? What even was this? Certainly not a romance read. This book did not give what it was supposed to give. Where was the witty banter, the swoon-worthy tension, the giggles that make me snort? Everything else you've written has been gold. You always leave no crumbs. But this was dry toast with no butter. Straight unseasoned chicken with absolutely no flavor. 0 feels. I don't recommend. Lots of
God
food
forbid
analogies.
an author step away from their usual.
I know. But I mean, that's
thank God she did.
When you're that big of a name and that prominent, people come to expect a certain thing from you. You kind of get locked in. So
yeah, but I also think that with that notoriety, like you also can do whatever you want.
You can, but then you're going to get like reviews like this where people who are like, I'm a faithful follower and you've let me down.
Yeah. And I think this is one of the lowest rated books of hers. It's 3.99 and a lot of them are at like 4-star. So that was interesting. I might go back to her other books and see what's up.
Yeah, you definitely
Okay. This is from Allie Goodwin. Have you heard that name before?
No, I feel like Allie Hazelwood.
Well, yes. One of my favorite authors. Okay, 5-star. I'd heard such mixed reviews on this book before starting it, so I'm so pleasantly surprised that I loved it. I always love Emily Henry's romances, but I especially loved Margaret's story, which I know a lot of people found to move slow. This book truly felt like an Emily Henry rom-com meets The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And the ending, never saw it coming. I teared up twice. So good. And of course, I love the romance, a top 3 Emily Henry book.
Oh, okay. So...
and Emily Henry stan, who also loved this book.
Yeah, that's saying something. And I feel like we're going to keep hearing the Evelyn Hugo comparison, like all throughout these. Like everyone had something to say about that. Okay, my next one is from Ty. I'm honestly surprised I made it through this one. I unfortunately had several issues with this story. The book within a book format just didn't work for me. I couldn't connect with Margaret's story, and every time it shifted back to her, it pulled me out of the main narrative. It wasn't until 70% in that her story even felt interesting. I also didn't care for Alice and Hayden's relationship. It felt like insta-love, and there just wasn't enough time developing their connection. The focus was so heavily on Margaret that Alice and Hayden's relationship felt like an afterthought. There was a reveal toward the end that I think was meant to be shocking, but it fell completely flat for me. I saw it coming and wasn't surprised by how things wrapped up at all. I went into this without super high expectations since this author's work has been pretty hit or miss for me, but I was hoping to at least like this a little. Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. Sometimes I come into books and I just like absolutely am like, oh, this is not for me. And I do think there is this aspect of like what mood I'm in.
Sure.
At any given
course.
time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so interesting. I'm curious if this person was like in a very particular mood when they read this book.
Well, I think also, again, if you've read Emily Henry before and have a certain expectation of what her books are, and then you read this and you're like, why is 50% of this book taking place in the past? You know, like it's not. Yeah.
But this person said they've had mixed reviews with Emily Henry. They weren't an Emily Henry stan.
It's been pretty hit or miss, they said. I don't know. I mean, I think if you do like traditional rom-coms, you would want to see more of Alice and Hayden. And honestly, there were times when I kind of wanted to as well. So
Amanda.
I know. I know. Well, because again, they are kind of the main relationship. And so I think that's the reason why I did maybe feel a little bit insta-lovey, because we just get these really quick snapshots of these random interactions when they're constantly running into each other. So it doesn't give you the breadth or depth of the relationship, you know, for you to really kind of get to know them. But anyhow, okay, go ahead.
Okay, this is also from another author, BK Borison, and she is another romance author, and she wrote First Time Caller, which was really popular earlier this year.
Yeah.
And so 5-star review, there was a point when I was reading this where I had to put the book down and physically pace, but I was on an airplane. So I walked up and down the aisle like a caged animal. Hayden, Alice, I love them.
That's it. I don't think I felt that level of attention at any point in the book, but I'm glad that this person enjoyed it so much.
Someone commented, laugh out loud drama.
Seriously. I wonder at which point in the book she was at when she was like,
I know, I'm so curious.
I don't know. Okay, last 1-star review, super, super short. This is from Madison, I think Doan. Almost DNF'd at watermelon earrings and dressing like a, quote, 1990s animated Nickelodeon teenager, unquote. Actually DNF'd at page 85 when she accidentally ran into the MMC for the 3rd time at random ass restaurants. Girl, eye roll emoji. Yeah, I get it. There was a lot of what?
Why the watermelon earrings? Why was that an issue?
I think she was commenting on the way that Alice dresses because it is kind of kooky. And I guess she just didn't like it. Because she like it says in the book, like she dresses like a 1990s animated Nickelodeon teenager.
But also, like, when was this book written?
Recently.
Book came out this year. If it was written like in the last year or two, could it have been a nod to like Palestine? That was like what I read from this.
Oh, I don't think so. Maybe
from Emily Henry's perspective. I don't know. I don't know where her perspective is.
I don't know enough about this person at all. But yeah, that's my last 1-star.
Interesting. Okay, my last 5-star review is from a famous book talker, and I actually have read one of her reviews before. Okay. I have no idea which book it was.
Okay.
But Emmy Rossum? I don't know. Emmy is her name, and she's like a really popular TikToker.
Okay.
What does RTC mean?
Oh, I have no idea.
Somebody tell us.
I feel like you're more in the know when it comes to like random acronyms that are used on TikTok. It says
official RTC. We'll figure this out.
ARC is advanced reader copy. Is it like a reader?
TC.
I don't know. I'll look it up while you're reading your review.
We are going to figure this out.
We'll look it up.
But I am spiraling after reading this. The setting and the descriptions are so classic Emily Henry, but this was so different to her other books. 80% plot, 20% romance, and I low-key ate it up. Personally loved it. Potentially one of my favorites? ?
Okay. All right. Also, really quickly, RTC just means review to come. Like, so maybe her official review to come. This is just like her first reaction. Yeah. Okay. Now that we have that skirt, I was like, what else would it stand for? I don't know. Yeah. Someone also, in one of the reviews, someone put NPC, and I think, isn't that like non-primary character or something?
Maybe.
I don't know.
NPC?
There's so many. Yeah. I think that's what it stands for. Anyhow, don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I need to brush up on my bookish acronyms, apparently. But yeah, this is an interesting book to get into for sure.
Yeah.
And I can officially say that I've read an Emily Henry book. I feel like I'm like in the know now a little.
Congrats, Amanda.
Thank you. I wouldn't have done it without you. Literally, I would not have read this without you.
Actually, I wouldn't have done it without this podcast, to be honest.
That's true. Yeah. We are trying, y'all, we're trying to stay relevant. We're trying to like keep up with the times, you know? So this podcast is definitely helping with that. Okay, cool. Do you want to do socials before we wrap up?
Yeah. So come find us on socials now that you listen to our podcast and you fell in love, obviously. We're at litvibesonly_podcast on Instagram, and we're at litvibesonly podcast on TikTok and YouTube, where we put these full-length episodes out there for you to enjoy. So go do that. Go hang out with us. And always, always, always rate and review once you've listened to an episode. It helps our podcast out so much, and we truly appreciate it. It helps us realize the work that we're putting in is worth it. So please go do that for us.
Yes, please and thank you. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us today, and we'll see you next Monday.
Bye.